Alrighty, and we are live. Thank you for stopping by Indie Dave Comics. I, of course, am Indie Dave. Today we have with us Dragon and the Metal. We'll be talking about Weeb stuff. We're going to be talking a little bit about manga. Well, probably more than a little bit. And some of the animes that we like to watch. I am kind of just dipping my toe into manga and anime, mostly because of my kids. And I've been actually liking a lot of the stuff that I've been checking out. And so these two guys know tons more than I do, so they'll be able to fill me in and push me into more manga, more anime. But let me introduce Dragon. Dragon's got an Indiegogo right now called
Yes.
called the Veil War.
Yep, I do.
All right.
It's apocalyptic fantasy. Basically, it's a lot of war going on and people getting beat up. There's a lot of goblins, orcs, but they're fighting against each other rather than any specific hero.
Okay. And we got it pulled up on the Indiegogo here. So let's see. Boom. There we go. All righty. So tell us a little bit about it. Other than
Basically, there's a barrier between the realm of the fairies, which contains all the fantasy creatures that you're familiar with, and the human world. And there's someone that was orphaned, found their way over into the fairy realm, where she met Merlin and was raised by him, become a sorceress. Now she grew up and she came back to Earth, and she's trying to kind of like create peace, I guess. I guess that's how you would describe it.
okay.
You have good intentions of trying to do something, and then you're not doing it the proper way as what she's doing. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to. I'm still figuring stuff out here, so hopefully we can get. Go ahead. I'm presenting some of the art and stuff.
Yeah, she's just one of those people that think that she knows best, like an SJW. And she tries to set things up to pretty much conquer the world, both the human world and the fairy realm, so that she, brings peace and order to the rest of the world.
Alrighty.
It's all about peace.
It's all about that's what it looks like from all the pictures. a lot of peace going on.
All about the peace. And poof flinging.
Poof. All right, so we got your goblins and your elves and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yep. You have to break a few eggs to get the world to get an omelet.
Of course, peace through strength.
Yeah, it's always worked in the past.
Yeah. Is this T-shirt here? Is that one of the perks, or is that just something?
If you scroll up just a little bit, there's a link right there to the Teespring store. Just a little bit isn't the entire page.
Okay, right here.
Yeah.
Dragon store.
Yeah, I figured that would be easier for everyone rather than do a perk, because then I would have to order it. It would have to come to me. Then there's extra shipping charges. So.
All right.
So that's probably the cheapest, safest, most secure way of getting that if you want it. And there's other products on there, like there's mugs, the phone cover thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a yoga pair of pants in there. Yoga pants.
Nice.
Some other stuff.
All right. How much longer do you have on this one?
Still 54 days.
54. Oh, you said it for 6. Wow. I only thought you could do it for 30 days.
No, it's standard to do 30 days because that's when a lot of people say that you get the most, it's the most efficient.
Mm-hmm. All right,
but, 60 days is the max, so why not try for 60?
Yeah, hey. So
more time to advertise.
Yeah, 54 days left, $385. You need $3,000 for your goal.
Yep, need about...
and it's already finished?
The line art is finished. The color, line art is mostly finished. It just has one page was supposed to be a double page spread, but it was drawn as 2 single pages.
Okay.
and they don't line up. So you have to combine that, which means there's touch-ups on that. Then there was a panel that I had to move to account for dialogue. So that needs a little bit of redrawing, and there's a page that I want to change just because it will look a little bit better.
All right. So it's mostly done. You're going to do just a little bit of editing and coloring, I guess?
Yeah, and then the colors will be there if meet the stretch goal of 8,000.
Okay. So, all right. And let's see. To get the minimum for a physical copy, that's what I usually go for.
That's $20.
$20. All right. You've also got a $10 digital. Let's see. And
I prefer if you're international to go with the digital, because I don't quite understand how the international shipping stuff all works yet, and so there might be problems there. So just to reduce like problems there, it might be best to go with the digital copy stuff.
all right. So international people, if you're buying, go ahead with the digital. That's what you'd prefer.
Also,
right.
those who also if you do the international, then I can like take the people who do digital are somewhat covering the international people in case there's a problem with any sort of shipping there.
Okay. Let's see. For $40, you get 2 signed copies. Let's see. Master Magnate, $100.
You get 5 copies, but only one of them are signed.
Okay. And then a digital copy.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't sign the digital copy.
Nope, can't do that.
All right. Let's see. So let's now go to the metal. The metal's got a webcomic, right? Still there? Hey, Metal, you still there?
Yeah, I've got a webcomic.
Okay, well, I got it posted up on the page right
I guess. I don't know. I was trying to, yeah, sorry. I was trying to retweet it out, but Twitter kept dying on me as I tried.
Yeah, it did that to me earlier. All right,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us a little.
Is
Go ahead.
called Ex Dynamis Chaos.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
what's? Go ahead.
it's kind of a smaller part of a larger collection of stories I'm trying to build up on, and I figured this was just the best place to start. It's kind of like the backbone of everything. The name literally means a bounty of chaos in Latin. It comes from a much longer phrase. And basically, the premise of it is taking kind of like hyperbolized versions of real things that have happened in my life and turning it into like a almost fictional superhero-like setting. And pretty much as things get forward, everything just becomes more and more chaotic. Like it just exponentially spirals out of control.
All right. So, all right, this is the chapter we got. I'm not going to run through the chapter because I want people to actually go to your site and read it.
Well, I mean, that's the only page for the chapter right now. Anyway.
Oh, okay. But this will be episode 4, so I have to assume there's 3 other episodes.
Technically, there's 4 other episodes, and I can explain that.
You better.
I have it set up like basically in volumes, kind of. And every 3 episodes of Ex Dynamis Chaos, if you scroll up to the banner at the top, there's another one that says A Hymn of Valor. There is an episode of that goes in because the stories closely tie in with each other.
Okay, it's the same kind of unit.
So then you get
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's episode 4, but it's the 5th chapter of the webcomic.
Okay, so definitely everybody go and check that out. Give him a little love there. Let's see, how long you've been doing that?
I even have physical copies of the first 3 are also available.
Oh, nice.
Just for anybody who finds it cool and would like to own it.
Okay. Is that available right on the website, or do you have to go to a separate site for that?
I need to put links to it directly on the website. Yeah, they are all pinned on the Twitter and stuff. So.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So, all right. So we covered your stuff. Let's get into the Weebery. All right. What do you guys? Let's see. So I've said before, I'm kind of new. to manga and anime as a culture. I mean, like I said, I've seen a lot of Miyazaki films. I think I've probably seen all of them at some point. And then I've seen some of the classics, Akira, Appleseed, years and years ago. I think when I was in college, probably.
So you've seen all the stuff that I consider overrated.
There you go. Yeah, all the stuff that I don't know. Everybody seems to. I mean, I really like stuff like, darn it, not Castle in the Clouds. The one before it. Mrs. Dave Comics. What's that one about the magician? To Miyazaki.
Howl's Moving Castle.
Howl's Moving Castle. That's
like Howl's, yeah.
Yeah, Howl's I really like.
Yeah, by no means are they bad. It's just they get too much praise, in my opinion.
Oh, aren't you the Fister Fancy one? Just kidding, man. I'm just pulling your chain. It's like I said, I'm all new into this, so I've been doing a live stream with the kids, and just kind of, because my kids have been getting into it, or they've been into it for a while. They like stuff like fairy tale and things like that. I know I'm going to have different tastes than them, especially north of 40 guy and a 13-year-old girl are going to have different tastes. But we were actually in the store after we saw Alita, and so I was like, all right, so I want to go to the store and get the manga and just see how close it was. Let's see. Oh, we got Man of Sex. Yeah. We got to get him in here.
Yeah, I keep on trying to pull that up. Alita or Gun M.
Mm-hmm.
Or however it's pronounced correctly. And every time I go to read it, I just somehow find something else to read that's different, or do something else. So I never have gotten past like the first chapter of it.
I can see how it might not be to everyone's taste, but I like it. It actually moves at a pretty quick pace compared to the movie. But what it is each volume, I guess, is part of the movie, so it kind of stacks. They get like 3 or 4 volumes all mixed into one movie to kind of get as much story as they can. But I got the big heavy duty deluxe edition, so I'm still having trouble reading it. I was telling them before, learning to read a manga compared to a comic book is kind of a challenge. It messes with your head if you're not used to it.
Why is that?
Well, because it's backwards. It's completely ass backwards. I start reading.
Well, not completely. It's still top to bottom. It's just right to left.
Yeah, but it's right to left. And then because I'm not used to turning the pages that way, like I'll read, because I'm old. So I'll read it right to left, right to left, and I'll get to the bottom of the page, and my eye is immediately drawn to the bottom of the next page, as opposed to naturally. Well, not naturally, but just because I'm used to reading that way, going up to the next page. So for me personally, it kind of messes with my head a little. It takes me longer to read it because I got to reorient myself.
Try getting used to 4 Koma panel manga.
No.
Do you know what they are?
I have no idea. Tell me what they are.
It's like a 4 panels comic strip, except it goes vertical, and there's usually 2 on a page, and the text goes right to left, but the panels go top to bottom, and the order of the comic strips go left to right.
That makes 0 sense to me. I'm already lost, and it's just you explaining it. So wait, what? So what kind of? All right. So, all right. What did you call that?
4 Koma manga.
Or coma?
Yeah, it's a style of how it's presented. It's not
So why would that be presented in a different style than a regular manga?
That's just how they do it. But the regular manga are usually like long stories.
And these are more like bit-centric.
Yeah, think more like Calvin and Hobbes.
Newspaper.
Oh, so
like that.
It's it's basically a comic strip.
Yeah.
Okay. So that doesn't sound too hard because it's little bits.
Yeah, there's a bunch of popular ones. One of them is about a cockroach. I know that. K something. It's a K band one, and I recommended it to Mrs. Dave the other day.
It's about a cockroach.
No, the other one, the band one, is
Okay.
K-on. Yeah, K-on. It's about a girl band, and it's a 4-coma.
Okay.
The cockroach one is also a 4-coma one. I forget what it is, but it's cute. It's about this cockroach that's trying to make friends with humans.
Huh. That sounds interesting.
Well, with K-on, you can also just watch the anime is pretty good for it as well.
They have an anime for that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They go from the just starting high school, and I think they get into the college years.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since I watched it. I think they go into the college years.
All right. And that's the. Sorry, my head's all funked up. So I was thinking, I was still on the idea of the cockroach. I'm like, I was in college.
Yeah, cockroaches in college.
That's really, Japanese are really weird. No, I was just messing this up in my head.
Joe's apartment.
I have seen Joe's apartment, and that's the thing my mind went to when you were talking about the they were trying to make friends with the cockroaches.
No, it's the cockroach.
When you said the cockroach trying to make friends with the people, that's the first thing my mind was brought to.
It's a female cockroach that goes around, and every single comic is she's trying to make friends with humans, but humans don't like her, so she gets swatted away or whatever.
Okay. Oh, there he is, man of sex. How's it going, man?
Uppity BTs. I gotta come up with an entrance slogan, like Fat Albert or something.
I gotta figure out a way to make entrance music for everybody.
Maybe you can just play it live.
Yeah, Hangouts just is not that complex.
Well, I mean, you could get a mic injector and make a soundboard, but that would take a lot of work that you're probably not willing to do.
Yeah, I'm not making any money off this channel, so maybe when I start making money off the channel, I can get a little fancier.
I feel like that's a little above Dave's raisin right there.
Oh my god, I can barely just freeze myself on the screen.
Yeah, that's definitely outside of boomer territory.
He's doing much better now. He's very slick with the Google Hangouts.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Moving along, Dave.
All right, yeah, that's right. I'm
Don't
evolving.
shame yourself.
Evolving.
It's scary, but Gary Shipman is the most advanced of all the Comicsgate people with Hangouts.
You know what's weird is he always comes up, and I always mean to watch him, but then I just never get something. Always happens. There's just too many people for me to watch all the time, and I'm subbed to him, and I get notifications, but I never end up watching his show.
You mean like right now, where there's like 5 other people streaming?
Yeah, I know. Malin popped up, and I'm not sure who else. But yeah, a couple of them popped up just when I started. I think this is a popular time. The only reason I do this at 9 o'clock is because that's when I get
prime time.
Well, my kids all in bed. I send my kids to bed at 8, and it gives me time to get a little snack and get this all set up. I'm to the point where it only takes me 5 minutes now to actually log on to everything. But I still, when I go into my my YouTube, I still have to go to Classic. I can't go to whatever the YouTube beta is.
Well, it doesn't have a lot of the live stream stuff yet.
Yeah, so I have to go to Classic, and it's just so easy. All right, so what's everybody reading right now as far as manga? If anybody's still reading manga.
I heard how they were teaching you how to read manga.
Yeah, well, they had to teach me how to read that special one because I think I've got the hang of regular manga. It's still messing with my head a little bit.
Yeah, you start from the back.
Yeah, and I can see it because when you buy it, obviously that's how it's pressed and stuff. And
I also have a little sheet that says, "Hey, you're reading the wrong way. Go to the other side of the book."
Hey, stupid white American, you're reading the wrong way.
You know what's funny is when I was in high school, we had one kid that he spoke Chinese, and he wasn't an exchange student, but that was where his family was from, and they were doing
Michigan?
it. What? Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah. But he was they did like a Chinese themed school dance, and they asked him to do a sign, and he's like, yeah, sure. And then I was talking to him about it later. He was like, yeah. I was like, so what does the sign say? It says stupid Americans can't read Chinese.
Soon to be a tattoo near you.
I would totally just get like a lunch menu and pick a symbol off of it and just get it done. Knowing, at least then I know full well that it's freaking nonsense rather than them trying to trick me.
I took 2 years of Chinese.
Really?
Along with French at the same time, and that was not good on the mind.
Get too closely related languages.
Franglese. When you start mixing them up. But it's really interesting. You learn all the radicals. Has anyone else messed around with Chinese?
Yeah, you should just learn the grammar first.
The grammar's it's not that hard, the grammar. It's the
inflection, right?
The inflections, yeah.
Everything's tone.
No, it's a tone language, so you get like what's it? If you say mom in a certain way, one is like mom and the other one's mom, and one way. Yeah,
you
one
have
way
a whole
is,
poem of just ma.
Yeah, one way is just mother, and the other way is my mom is a horse. So it's like
So that's my mother scolds horses in the flower patch is ma.
Yeah. Or if you add ma to the end of a sentence with a raise, it's asking a question.
Ni hao ma.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I recommend for learning languages is just go and learn grammar in general, like all the different rules, and then after that, it's just a matter of which grammar they're following and the lexicon. And that's all it is to learn a new language, really, after that point.
I think I watched, and I haven't studied to try to learn any language, but I think I like cultural type stuff. So like I'll be on YouTube or whatever, just kind of randomly doing YouTube videos, and then I'll see something on what Japanese politeness or whatever, and it's like how, it's basically how you would say one thing to your buddy. But if you were talking to a stranger or somebody who was older than you or whatever, you would use a completely different phrase.
Yeah, like the colloquial.
Yeah.
And you have to use honorifics for different relations as well.
Yeah, and that kind of thing I find interesting. And
you mean like local versus des?
Sure.
Well, they actually did that. I think it was a Chinese airline did that. Where because they have the honor system where you kind of have your superior and things like that, there would be things going wrong in the flight and they didn't want to tell their superior because of the system. So they created something where they put them all at a level playing field and then they had less crashes and issues with the planes. Yeah. It's like so extreme. If you are the senior that you're not supposed to disrespect the senior of anything that's being ran.
Jeez. All right. So let's see. So back. Oh, let's see who's here today. Let's see. The Geekery Barn. Hey, how's it going? And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And me.
And you. But you're in here. How can you be here and out there?
I'm two places at once.
All
right.
It is very hard to keep track because I have too many tabs open.
I tried to keep. Well, I always have too many tabs open.
Oh, are you a tab whore? I have a friend. I have a friend. Every time I look at his computer, he has like 8 gigs of RAM on his computer, and he's like, "My computer's just so slow." And I look at his Chrome tabs, and they're like the size of a pinprick.
Yeah, Chrome is eating up a lot of memory lately. It wasn't that way like a year ago, but now it is.
Yeah, well, it's a full operating system now, just sitting in the browser. So
it sucks because I run this off of Chrome. But I have Safari because I'm running Apple.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, they're both pretty much WebKit, so...
Well, yeah, but you can't do Hangouts in Safari.
I didn't know that. I didn't try it
yet. You can always use a Chromium-based browser that's not Chrome.
Yeah.
You can do Hangouts like Brave or Opera or anything like that.
And soon to be Edge.
That is way beyond me.
Yeah, I have one. I just don't feel like it. I have Pale Moon, but I just haven't switched everything over to it.
This came with Safari, and then it was like, oh, if you want to do Hangouts, you have to have Chrome. So I was like, all right. So I downloaded Chrome separate, and that's as far as I want to go.
Brave is good because it blocks ads and trafficking on its automatically. It's built into the browser.
Oh.
Human trafficking?
Oh, hey, thanks, Ethan. Now Ethan's on.
Oh yeah, so it's gonna go from 7 to negative.
Don't any new people leave.
Don't you leave. Don't
Yeah,
you
my
leave.
luck is he finally actually invite me in and see that I emailed him. That would be my luck right now.
All right.
Well, Safari makes more of sense for you, Indy. It fits the whole persona if you're using Safari.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Well, Brave has a lion for icon, so you could be hunting that.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, so let's see. Back to the Weebery.
Okay.
What's
the comics I'm reading? Skip beat. Comics I'm reading? Skip beat. I just say comics. It's manga, whatever. Skip beat. Dragon Ball Super and World Trigger are the ones that I keep up to date with most often.
Okay. In the chat, we got, just so I don't forget about him, we got Dean Domino 25. Hey, Dean. Thanks for stopping by. All right.
World-class bullshitters are also on, Dean Domino said.
Oh, nice.
It's hard to compete at prime time.
Yeah, well, you know. I've only got 144 followers, and they all follow everyone else. I just have to assume. All right. So, are you
Malin too?
Yeah, I got Malin earlier. He came on as soon as I came on. But let's see. So, all right. So, Man of Sex, what are you into right? What are you into?
What am I into?
What are you
not into?
Mostly anime or what?
If anything, it was anime. The last thing I watched was Berserk.
Okay.
The arc, but outside of that, not so much. I'm actually watching Curb Your Enthusiasm over again.
Is that Japanimation?
Oh, of course. Right from California.
Nice. Yeah.
And HBO, but no,
I mean,
I don't have time.
It's like a Jewish anime, right?
Yeah, it's a Jew animation.
All right. What about you, Metal? What are you going for at the moment?
Oh man, I'm actually pretty much in between things, except I'm catching up with the most recent stuff for JoJo's since that's still ongoing.
Yeah,
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure one.
I've been trying to do my homework and get as many different things in as possible. So I'm about 10 episodes into Trigun. I just finished the 4th episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I got the Battle Angel Alita, the manga, and then the Full Metal Alchemist manga. So I'm trying to compare the Full Metal to the anime. It lines up a lot closer than I thought it would.
Well, because you're watching the right one.
Yeah, and I mean it started a little different because I guess they got kind of the bigger story, and maybe they'll do because the first one in the anime was the freezer guy, the water alchemist guy, and I guess maybe he'll show up later. I guess that's how they wanted to start the story with the anime, probably because there was a big action scene.
You got to start in medias res.
Yeah. So I saw that one, and I just got to the 4th one, and oh my god, I like Trigun, but this one I really like Full Metal. I really like the Full Metal Alchemist story. I like where that's going.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Do you know the origin of why do they cover that where the Elric brothers why they start their journey and all like that?
Yeah, that's in the manga. It's in the 1st chapter, and
in the anime they backtrack.
Yeah, they make it like the 2nd episode. They talk about what's going on. So yeah, it's a really neat. I like the themes in it, and I like the
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
like
style.
Dean was saying. The whole ice thing was just something that they created for Brotherhood to start the show out.
Oh, really? So that's not in the manga at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like one of the few things from outside of the manga in it. Otherwise, it follows pretty closely.
Yeah, I think it kind of ties up their or it explains their thing about the sorcerer, not the sorcerer's stone, this philosopher's stone.
Yeah. Which is functionally the same thing, mythologically speaking.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm getting into. Oh, Edwin Boyette's live too. Look at
Oh, great.
that.
That's another tab being opened.
Yeah. So all right. So that's what everybody's reading right now. Does everybody have a favorite that's different? Something that like really got them into it?
Oh, no, nobody's going to have the same favorite manga as
Well,
me.
obviously not everybody.
No, I have
That's
a
why I
pretty
got more
big
than one person on here. Gotta
Yeah,
fill airtime.
if you're talking about anime right now, then I'm watching Circlet Princess and Banji, and I need to watch the second series of Banji.
Bon Jovi.
What got
No, Banji. I think it's Banji, but it's spelled B-A-N-G like bang. So, but the last letter is capitalized.
Okay. And now what got you into anime?
Slayers.
That's it.
That's pretty much
That's
it.
pretty
And
good.
Boring Friday Mornings, Sci-Fi Channel used to put on anime all the time.
Okay. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah.
my kids started me just getting interest into it, and then like half of my Twitter feed, even though I wasn't into anime, half my Twitter feed's anime. And about 4:00 in the morning, that's when the not safe for
I'll
work
be right
stuff
back.
comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, the like back before sci-fi was called SYFY or syphilis, as people now call it.
Mhm.
They had a Friday morning or anime thing, which was they do like an movie. So there was Akira, Arya, what's another one? Kashern was on there.
Oh, I don't have it open. Is the thing? It just showed me the
Ghost in the
message.
Shell, Pat
I mean, can't
Labor.
Mama just message him?
Yeah, it had a bunch of those movies. Then there was also on Stars at the time. They also had Shadow Skill. What's another one? So that's Ninja Scroll.
Oh, okay. Ninja Scroll. I've heard of that one. That's
I don't-
that's one of the big classics, right?
Yeah, that's the one that everyone likes. That's another one I don't like, but
Oh, really?
it's just not entertaining to me. It's I don't even know what it's really about. It was always just too dark, the animation style, and the colors and all like that. It really didn't have anything other than fighting in it.
All right. Hey, the metal. I muted you real quick just because you were talking to someone else. You can unmute yourself. There we go.
But
I
yeah,
thought the mute on my microphone had done it, but I guess
No. I hit just because you were talking to someone else.
Yeah.
And stuff.
yeah, and then there's always the there's Pokemon, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon. What's another one? Like all those like TV series that most people don't realize are anime.
Well, I think when I was a kid, like I know they called it Japanimation, but a lot of the shows that I used to watch, and I mean, I was little when these were on, were like Star Blazers, and what was there was another one, Battle of the Planets, all that stuff.
Voltron,
Yeah.
Transformers,
Yeah.
Thundercats.
See, I didn't realize that Thundercats was considered anime because
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer I knew. Like at the time being a kid, I didn't know the difference. But even afterwards, I always thought that Thundercats was an American cartoon or wasn't considered anime. I didn't think it was part of all that.
People consider it, like I said, people consider it American animation, but it's clearly anime.
Now,
well, a lot of stuff from back then was a mixture because they had like writers in America, animators in like Japan and Korea, and there's just all kinds of all over the place.
So is there a hard and fast definition of what is like? Because I know like they don't call Avatar, they don't call that anime. Supposedly, it's taboo.
The basic rule is where the
Production
original,
is.
well, not the production, the
Original property.
studios. It's probably like the studios because
Well,
a
the
lot
studio
of the
production, that same general level,
Yeah,
like
it's-
where it's actually conceived.
yeah, it's not the creators per se that are the important part because a lot of the animation itself is done by Korea or one of the many like Chinese, Korean, or Japanese animation houses nowadays. So it has nothing to do with who's actually creating it.
So if I wrote a script and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to send this off to a Japan studio to produce it. Would it be considered anime?
If you were to create a script and then someone else, like the director and all like that, was in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
that would be considered anime,
Okay.
even though the original idea comes from America.
All right.
Yeah, there's several like Marvel anime and stuff that.
Well, I know they got that new
That-
Batman Ninja or whatever. That was done in Japan, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah.
and it's
heard it
also
was
got
based
a
on-
very different
Hmm?
experience if you watch the Japanese than the English version.
Yeah. Well, it's like watching the difference between subbed and dubbed.
No,
right?
as in there's a Norse style narration in one that's not in the other that they just completely cut out of it.
Like a different way that the director handles how the script is done.
Kind of, yeah.
Because it like well, I'll say looking at the Alita thing, and then I've seen the movie. There's stuff that seems to me is strictly would be something that you might not see. I mean, it wasn't in the book at all, but was in the movie. Like they tried to keep the story pretty close to the manga, but there were little tweaks and changes that, I mean, to me doesn't really. It's not that big a deal. But it seems like something that, okay, that's something they would do for an American audience. You know what I'm saying? Like they might in Japan, since that's not part of their general story tropes. I guess they have different story tropes than like Americans would have.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I think that what they did for the Alita movie was there were little things, just subtle little changes they did that weren't in the manga, but were clearly it's something. Okay, well, I think Americans will it will make more sense for Americans to accept it if we do this little kind of story tweak.
Well, like in you will never find in American animation a trope about that Japan has about Americans that are like the big nosed, big burly dude. And I think they're usually blonde. You'll never really find that in American animation to that extent, to that stereotype, but you'll find it in Japanese animation stuff because it's to communicate a message about the foreignness of the character.
Well, they have to make the character look so much different to distinguish between the two,
Yeah.
and in the way they're acting, maybe.
Yeah, it's just like, stereotypes and all like that. You have archetypes to have. It's a tool so that the viewer can see that and go, oh, that's what that's about. And then you can either build on that or deconstruct it or whatever you want with that. But that initial thing is what you're going for when you're showing that type of stuff. It's just a shorthand way to put a story in there.
Are there different terms for stuff that they do because there are certain, and I guess it's a trope. Like if somebody's being like super overly emotional, like they get like super angry about something, and suddenly they're super cartoony. You know what I'm talking about? I know they do it in the manga too.
Like when they become chibi and stuff like that.
Exactly. And I know there's the term chibi. Is that just like in Full Metal Alchemist, he has this thing about being called short, and when somebody says he's short, all of a sudden he gets like super angry and like jumps around and he's turns into like a kind of chibi character. Is there a term for that, for when that happens, or do they just say, oh, he went chibi?
There's different personality terms that they use, like tsundere. That's a girl who likes a guy, but it's actually a guy too, but it's basically someone who likes someone else, but they're always like picking on them
Mm-hmm.
and saying that they don't like them. You know, like a little schoolgirl that
Yeah.
does that.
Yeah.
That it's an archetype that's popular, and it's called tsundere. There's
Tsendre.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that I've seen the term. I never actually knew what that meant. So it's basically that whole like the little girl likes the boy, so she punches the hell out of him.
yeah. It's pretty much
Yeah,
you like them, but you're gonna outwardly say that you don't.
yeah.
There's the rich girl trope. I don't know what that's called.
Now, they have names for all this stuff. I just couldn't tell you half of them off the top
Okay.
of my head.
Yeah, there's moe, which is popular, which is pretty much cute for cuteness sake.
Mm-hmm. And that's and these are character tropes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So-
There's the glasses girl. It's another one that they have. There's like I mainly know the female ones. There's like equivalent male versions of it, like the glasses boy, the otaku.
Mhm.
What's another one? There's one that I was thinking of, but it just
The jerk with the heart of gold is a very popular one too.
Really?
Yeah, that's I can't remember her name, but the person who does Urusei Yatsura, Ranma 1/2, Inuyasha and stuff likes to use this trope over and over. And she'll partner a tsundere girl with a jerk with a heart of gold boy, and they're clashing with each other because they both like each other, but they can't show it.
Okay.
There's also Bishonen, or yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it translates roughly to pretty boy.
All right.
And usually they're rich. They're like the upper class characters that everyone thinks are pretty.
All right. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat right now. Let's see. Geekery Barn says moe is more girl you just want to protect from her pain. I don't know. I'm learning all this stuff right now. So.
Yeah, it's like a level of cute innocence, you know, like
Oh, okay.
that type of
Yeah,
person
moe
that you
is a
don't
weird term.
want to experience anything bad because they're just that cute and innocent.
Yeah, moe is a weird term because it was pretty much completely made up by anime fans like 5-10 years ago.
Did they
And
like
it has
find
no
just a?
basis in
I was just going to say they just find a term that seemed close enough and was like, "That's what we're going to
No.
use." For it.
No, they just made it up.
They just made
Yeah.
it up. They just like made up a word completely out of whole cloth.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, all words are made up, just at different points in time.
Well, yeah, but it's like the fans just like the Japanese fans or American fans.
I think it was Japanese.
Yeah, it has ground in Japan, so I would say
okay.
it comes from there.
All right, so okay, well that makes kind of sense. Okay, it's different if like an American just said, "Oh, this sounds like a Japanese word. Let's call it that." All right, so
Oran High School Host Club. Yeah, I like that show. It has a bunch of Bishonens in it, and that's a
I know. Did we lose Man of Sex?
yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's what happened. I saw somebody move. Maybe his you know what? I'll bet you he went to watch Ethan.
He said he had to go.
Oh, did he?
Okay.
Oh no, I guess he said in the chat he had to go.
Yeah, I recommended Oran High School Host Club. That's a good one. It's basically a girl like gets a scholarship to a elite school, and then she finds a host club, and a host club is something like a stripper bar, but not really. It's
So it's a lot of fan service.
No, actually, it's
Well,
not.
host is.
Wait,
host
hold
is the
on,
word
hold on,
escort.
stop. How are you gonna throw out stripper bar and then say no fan service?
I'm trying to explain. It's not really a stripper bar. It's
Yeah.
it's like a bar you go to hang out with. Well, you can go alone, but there's usually it's male or female, so it's in that vein. And the servers are there, sort of like they pamper you,
Oh,
but it's not a strip bar.
see now I can't have you teasing my guests.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
have,
more
I
like
can't have you
a,
teasing the chat. You can't
like
be
an escort service with
Yeah,
no anything afterwards.
with no
You
happy
kind of
endings.
just get a date.
We're all adults here, and it's late, so we can say there's no happy endings.
It's the girlfriend experience, pretty much.
Okay.
But it's with multiple girls, whoever's in the area. Basically, they get you drunk, you pay them, and they hang out with you. That's pretty much what it is.
That's how I got married.
And the RN host club is guys doing this. It's 5 guys, I think, and they each take a certain personality. Well, this girl finds her way into this school-sponsored host club, and she's broke, and she accidentally breaks something. And they're like, "You owe us for that."
Mm-hmm.
So she keeps on getting into debt every episode, pretty much more and more. But she has to work for the host club to pay off this debt. And the way that she works for the host club is by dressing up as a guy and pretending that she's a guy.
Japanese people are weird. That whole description just kind of threw me completely for a loop.
It's a pretty fun series. So
What is it? Bishonen? Or no, that's what the name of the character or the kind of character, like that's the trope character.
yeah, they're all types of Bishonen. One group is like 2 brothers that are twins, and they pretend that they're into each other incestually.
Good lord.
There's the super smart guy. There's the super athletic guy.
All right, so Dean Domino says you make it sound like you didn't know this, Dave. I'm a virgin to this whole Japanese anime stuff. Let's see.
Yeah, she's
So
not totally sexual, so she looks somewhat like a guy.
It's more of a comedy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's played for laughs kind of stuff.
Well, and there's also a romantic element because all the guys start to fall for her.
Even though she's pretending to be a guy.
Well, they all know that she's a guy.
They all know she's a girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because she works there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the girls that they're hosting do not know that she's a guy. And I think she becomes one of the more popular hosts too, so not sure.
Wow.
Yes, Vic does play the really princely character.
Oh, Vic, what's his name? Mignona?
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, there we go. Now I'm learning.
Yeah, this is the same voice as Edward Elric.
From which one? Is he doing the one in Brotherhood, or is he doing did he do the old one? He really?
Yeah, he's Edward in English.
Okay, because I haven't seen because that was 2010, I think, when that came out. Brotherhood. It's older than I thought it was. I thought it was newer, just because I'm still getting into it, and I knew there was another Full Metal Alchemist. They said, "Oh, this is a new series," so I thought it was more recent than it is.
Oh, that's what it is. At the end of the first episode, they find out that she's a girl. It's because she's wearing the male uniform, so she looks like a guy. Because they weren't able to get her a female uniform or something like that.
Okay. All right. So who's been
But yeah,
following?
that's a fun series, so go watch it.
All right, maybe I'll look into that.
Though you probably won't enjoy it.
I like the more action, like I guess it's cyberpunk is what Full Metal Alchemist is considered, and Battle and Alita is considered, I guess, sort of.
I mean, you could say it's
would be
borderline. Yeah, Alita's definitely cyberpunk, but
Okay.
FMA is more like high fantasy mixed with some elements of steampunk.
All right, yeah, I
definitely
guess I see that.
fantasy, but not.
Yeah, I'm not sure the timeline of Full Metal Alchemist. I think they're like
FMA's
it's
it's early 1900s. I can tell you that from watching the anime, just because there was a scene where they go to the mother's grave, and it has the date of her date of death is like it's like 1902 or 1912 or something. It's early.
Oh yeah, it's the same years as one of the. I think it's right after World War I or right before World War I.
Well, they straight up call the guy the Führer. So
Yeah, it actually takes place in a parallel world to ours.
Yeah. But I think they put a date so because the technology doesn't. Well, it's kind of sort of lines up. with the time, but it would have to. But steampunk, it's kind of hard to figure. But yeah,
the technology is more realistic than the actual magic science they're using for alchemy.
Yeah, that's what makes it hard to date, is because they're doing sort of science and then sort of magic. Because even their magic they call science. So
yeah, if you want to go by, because it's not canon, but if you take the other series and the movie that followed into account, the end of the series lines up with World War II.
Okay.
Because the movie ends up crossing over into our world. But again, that's not canon to the manga or anything like that.
See, that's what it was. Because the other day, I got a chance to watch the Alita anime, and it's the same kind of deal. It doesn't really match up. She has a completely different name, actually. They call her Gali in the anime. So I didn't really care for the anime that much, to tell you the truth. I mean, it was okay, but I preferred the manga actually that I'm reading. But yeah, FMA for sure. There was a date on her that puts her right in the beginning of the 20th century.
Yeah, I always think it's post-apocalyptic only because there's always there's this lore later on in the show where it seems like it's the world has fallen apart and they're just coming back from whatever happened.
See, to me, it doesn't really matter that much, since it is because it seems like a totally parallel world because they have magic and all the buildings look different. So, I mean, the fact that they put a date on it at all seemed odd to me because it doesn't really line up with anything that we would consider historic.
Yeah, it's kind of like if the Holy Roman Empire never fell and then just moved into that type of German style of class system.
Yeah.
At one point, I had this crazy idea that Full Metal Alchemist is like the precursor to Attack on Titans because they get placed in the same place.
Well, and it's almost the same thing to me and only because I'm still really early in the manga for that. There's no date on Attack on Titan either.
Oh, it's in the future.
Oh, is it? But I watched the first season. And I guess I understood that it's in the future, but since it's so different and it's such a some things have changed so much that it a date didn't even matter. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't even imagine that there, and I know there was because I kind of know the backstory a little bit, but it's so different to the point where dates didn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I like to do that. Like I have several universes that I work on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh well, I can just connect this to here because I can just say it takes place in a different universe and attaches somehow over here. Or this is actually the same universe because there's enough time in between, or like little things like that. So it doesn't matter, but it does add more depth to the universe if you ever do that. And it's just some fun to think about, or a nice little Easter egg if you put it in there.
All right. Dean Domino says, in the movie, Fuhrer Bradley's alternate self is Fritz Lang, who I'm completely blanking on who that was. I imagine it's got to be somebody actually historic.
I have not started watching Rising of the Shield Hero.
Me neither.
No, I haven't either.
I know the basic premise is that there's like a false accusation on a guy, kind of like a I think was it false harassment or like a rape accusation or whatever.
Oh, I think I heard something about this the other day.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten into it or anything yet.
Yes, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I heard I heard something about this mentioned the other day. The guy gets a false accusation against him, and the whole thing is his revenge because it destroyed his life or whatever. His whole thing is getting revenge on being falsely accused. I'm probably way oversimplifying it.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell you. I just know the basic premise about the accusation part.
Here's the synopsis that a site gives. Stories of old tell of 4 otherworldly heroes wielding the sword, spear, bow, and shield, who defended the land from wave after wave of calamity. With the fate of the world in balance, the kingdom of Melromark summons these legendary figures in modern-day Japan. The call is answered, and the unwitting heroes are transported to the fantasy universe. Thrust into Melromark and given the title Shield Hero, Otaku Neofumi Iwatani is labeled the weakest due to his lack of offensive capability and apparent inexperience. When the heroes part ways to start their journeys, he has the one willing companion, the beautiful princess Multi Melromark. However, she soon betrays him, steals all his money, and accuses him of taking advantage of her. For his alleged crime, Neofumi is branded criminal and made outcast of society. With hatred filling his heart, he sets out alone, vowing vengeance against those who wronged him. I actually thought I had started reading the manga of this while reading that, and then it got to the end. It's like, well, wait, no, that's not what it is. Because there's another one that's like that, and he has like healing power, and it's he ends up being really strong because he gets a person who trains him how to really, really use and abuse healing powers. But it's pretty much the same premise as this up until the whole she betrays him.
There was I almost think it was Zach in one of his videos a long time ago was talking. He had an idea for a superhero comic, and the guy was essentially Captain America, and he's fighting this evil bad guy, and everybody's watching somehow it's being videotaped because all the news or whatever. Everybody's watching the fight, and in the middle of the fight, he gets so angry at the bad guy that he calls him the bundle of sticks, and like everybody hears it, and they're like, oh. And because it's such a big you don't say that. So even though he was the good guy and he just defeated the bad guy, his superhero career is ruined because he said that one word in front of like everybody on TV. And I can't remember if he had gone any further, but there's like a reverse plot to that where it was like we're going to invent this bad guy who was a person of color, he was a midget. He was he was gay. He was all this other stuff.
Stack all these oppression things on top.
And he was the bad guy, and the good guys weren't allowed to hit him because he was so had so many like grievance points that the good guys weren't allowed to attack him because they'd be afraid of losing their jobs or whatever. And it was just a funny. I don't think anybody actually did it, but it was like just a funny play on being woke and the whole SJW thing.
Yeah.
And Geeky Barn was talking about the Shield Hero, SJW. I think that's why I heard about it because SJWs were going insane because of, oh my God, you said a woman falsely accused him or whatever. That's what's great about Japan is they don't care if it sounds like a neat story. If it sounds like a neat story, whether it's woke or not, I mean, it's not really, that's not their thing. So they're like, yeah, it sounds cool. We'll run with it.
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube where this guy is Japanese and he goes to, but I think he lives in America, but he went to Japan and he did some interviews about modern feminism. And they're like, all the women that he interviewed is like, that's stupid. How does that work?
Yeah.
Well, I know Find Your Love in Japan does videos like that.
I think I've seen some of his stuff.
And he's great. Nobita. He lives in Japan. He's an English teacher and a Japanese teacher because he speaks both to people in Japan.
Oh, just if I were monetized, I'd be completely demonetized for calling the Japanese people racist.
Oh, probably.
Well, I think as a country, like you can't just go to their country and become a citizen. Like I don't think they even let outsiders become citizens. They'll let you live there, but you'll never be.
You actually can become a citizen, but you'll never be Japanese. You'll be a Taishin all your life.
You can, but it's very hard to.
Yeah,
and there's
it helps
terms
to
that a
own
lot of
property
people,
there.
There's terms that a lot of people do not understand and get wrong. Like the term weeb and weeaboo. That means that you're a jackass who thinks you're that thinks you know more about Japanese culture than even the Japanese do.
That's funny.
That's what
Yeah.
it means. It's not doesn't mean that you're into like anime and all like that.
To us, that's what it means, but to them, it's like when we say "bae." When somebody's like, "Oh, he's my bae." Well, in I don't know, one of these Scandinavian countries, it means shit.
No, it just became that in America like less than like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the word weeaboo. It was always derogatory. And now people.
Looks like otaku has had some slightly change in meaning since then as well.
Well,
Was it-
otaku is a creepy fan.
Yeah, like a shut-in type
Yeah.
of guy who just builds model trains in their basement.
Well, no, that's a what's it called? NHK. Oh, that's one you might enjoy, but I don't recommend like watching it like while others are around because you might break down from it. Welcome to the NHK. Basically, it's a shut-in guy who wants to be a game developer, but everything kept on messing up for him, so he just sat in his room and just pretty much played games for his entire life.
Did you make money doing that?
No, but he's forced out at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts getting more unpopular and talking to people. It's really, I don't know how to. It talks about suicide at points, but he's forced out and like, what's the guy? He meets someone and they're like, "Why don't you create this game with me?" And so they develop this thing going on. There's also a girl involved that that tries to help him out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it clearly, but it's funny because I watched it back in like 2003 when I was just coming out of high school, and I was like, "This is a cool show." It's kind of, I don't feel anything about it, but whatever. And then like 10 years later, I watch it. I'm like, "Damn, this hits home."
Yeah, that's the other term that's related to this whole grouping of people is the kikomori.
Yeah, that's what it is. Hikikomori and neat.
Kikomori? What is it? And what do those mean?
Basically shut in. Neat is not employed in education or training.
Yeah.
I know there's a big.
So it's basically somebody who's not active in society in any way.
There's a big culture shift from what I've been hearing. That's first of all, if you haven't subscribed to the Indie Dave Comics channel, you really should, so you can hear me tell lies about the Japanese and be corrected by my guests.
Well, like one of the big differences between kikomori and otakus, who some of them are shut-ins, but they're not shut-ins because they don't do anything. They just prefer not to interact with anybody. While like kikomori are like people who just don't have anything going on in society.
Yeah, or they're afraid to go out into society.
Yeah.
Because there's a thing.
It's not that they're just socially inept or anything like that.
There's a thing like in America we have that little movement, MGTOW. I don't know if you're all aware of what that is.
No, that's completely different.
Well,
Completely. Yeah.
It's in America it's completely different for different reasons. But there is kind of, and I actually watched something about this. It's not the same with the same attitude, but it's a similar thing where guys kind of shut themselves out and decide they don't want to be involved, and it's really pissing Japanese women off.
No. What you're missing?
No, I'm not missing because I understand what you're saying, and I understand that's different.
You're relating the shutting people off with not having contact with women. The shutting people off in MGTOW is going, women are sort of scumbuckets and we don't want to deal with that shit.
No, I understand. So, like what I'm saying is I understand the difference. I do understand that there's a difference. But what I'm saying is it's not like they're calling themselves MGTOW. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're called no, that's the other one.
I'm like
grass eaters.
And I'm not saying they're doing it for the same reason, but there is kind of a movement, and it's like I said, it's not exclusively shutting themselves away from women. It's because they kind of decide I'm just going to stay home, play video games, and they're not as social as they used to be. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's less social now than they used to be. There's less
I
of
like that one.
Well, there's less of an importance of becoming a family band kind of thing. Like I said, it's not the same attitude, it's not the same reasons, but there is an almost I don't know. It's difficult to
Well, I
describe.
know one of the problems with Japan is the exact opposite reason. Especially because a lot of men, they just get so buried in their work trying to become like a salaryman or whatever that they never feel they're prepared for a family. So they never go out and they meet women, and they just get consumed in their work, and they never marry or have children or anything like that.
That's probably what
I think this is a horrible conversation to have, and could
It is.
really.
Especially from people who aren't in Japan and can't directly relate to it.
Well, no, I mean it can end really badly. That's all.
No real meaningful conversation can end badly. But I you know what? I'm gonna end it just because there's probably a lot that I'm misunderstanding. Because I've never been to Japan. I've never really talked to anybody from Japan, so I'm completely misinformed on the subject. Probably, I know that there is a problem that I have seen where a lot of Japanese women are upset because there are so many men that, again, maybe because you were just talking about they don't feel prepared and they never feel prepared and they're not marrying for whatever reason.
Oh, it's also on the other side too. Women are becoming more and more and more westernized, and so they're demanding more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they're just like, oh, we can't get with women because we're not prepared yet. It's like, oh, this bitch over here wants shit.
Yep.
And I can't provide it. And even though I could have provided it 10 years ago, I can't now. And then by the time I get up to the 10 years later when I could provide it, she'll want even more. That's part of the problem.
It's a big culture shift. I know. All right, we're not going to talk about Japanese culture. Yeah. At least to that level. I don't feel experienced enough to talk about that.
It's like the one thing you got to know is that they are very much both a Western and Eastern country at the same time because of how they operate in like a capitalistic and trying to bring in Enlightenment liberal values, but also the deep ingrained culture that they've had for thousands of years.
Yeah, the conversation goes badly because the same reason the racism conversation goes badly, because there are truths and there are facts. And if the racists will take that and go, yeah, and that means they're inferior. So
Yeah.
like, no, that's not what I meant at all. It's just, here's a fact.
When I used the term earlier, I didn't mean it to say that I think there's anything wrong with Japanese. I have no problem with Japanese people, Japanese culture. I have no problem with any of those people at all. And so when I used the term earlier, I meant it in the purest form of what the word actually means.
Yeah, that won't save you.
No, oh well. I'm not monetized anyway.
They're pretty much kind of old school nationalists in the way that, like, say, the Hebrew nation was for a long time, where you could have an outsider come in, but they would have to spend many generations through their children before they're finally one of you.
Oh, and you actually can't be technically Japanese even if you're naturalized.
They have that
the way only Japanese people can become Shinto, and if you're not Shinto, you're not Japanese.
Yeah.
And just because you're naturalized or a citizen doesn't mean you're Japanese. So you have people that might have their entire family be Shinto, but because they're not actually Japanese, they haven't been raised, they're not genetically Japanese, they're not nationally Japanese, they're nothing other than legally Japanese. They will never be
on paper.
Shinto. Yeah. Even if they go through the entire culture, if you weren't born in Japan, born and raised, you're not able to be Shinto. Even if you believe everything that Shinto says, you're not Shinto.
Alrighty. Well, I'm glad that's where the conversation about cartoons and comic books went.
It is very important to understand the society if you really want to
Yeah.
understand what's going on in some of this stuff at a deeper level.
Yeah. You know what?
But they do appreciate it though if that you try.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's good. At least, I mean, I always appreciate it when people try to be American. So.
And that takes us back to the whole weeb thing.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Is
now as somebody, I'm obviously a noob into this, and you guys are more into it. Do you take offense when I joke around about saying weeb or whatever? Is that something that you're like,
I don't like the term because it's wrong.
Okay.
Because it's the wrong term. But can't argue with everyone about it.
All right. Well, I'm not here to get people upset, or actually, I'd like to. I'm like I said, I'm learning this stuff. I'm kind of learning. I don't know how much I know. Like, we keep talking. One of the things, because I do primarily comic book stuff, like American comic book stuff, and people are like, how come manga and all that sells millions and millions of copies in Japan, and it doesn't? And here, like, some of these guys can barely get 5,000 issues out.
Because it's primarily merit-based.
Mm-hmm.
You know about the structure of how manga and all like that are produced, right?
I don't. No? Why don't you? And I'm not trying to be snarky here. Educate me. I honestly don't know.
Okay, there's these magazines which we would generally call anthologies, but they're usually called something Jump, like Shonen Jump, Seinen Jump.
Okay. Yeah.
They release once a month, every 3 months, or every 6 months, generally. There's about what?
Is format wise, is it like a big magazine, or is it more like these manga size?
Right about to do that. There's about 20 pages per story, and there's about 20 stories. A story that starts off can get up to about 56 pages, I think it is. And one-offs can be in there too.
Is it just like those shonen magazines?
Yeah.
Would it be like comparable to size? Is it about like a manga size compared to like a regular comic, like an American comic book?
Some of them are like the size of phone books.
Okay.
Yeah, you see the Shonen Jump books that you get in America?
Uh-huh.
That's essentially what they are. They're about 200 pages, and they're like magazine size.
Okay.
They're bigger in size in that way.
All right.
That's the first.
They're the same proportion, though. That's why when you get smaller, the manga is not exactly the same proportion as, say, like an American comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You get to get into that, you're competing. You're trying to do like these tournaments that you can get involved in. Like you have to submit a completed script and comic to the editor office, and they can give you rewards and put you in like a book for like a one-off story. Generally, you have to do that 2 or 3 times until editor recognizes your ability, and they go, okay, so we want to do a story. We want to convert this into an actual long-running story. What do you think about that? Then they'll start working on that, or if you have something new, then you can propose that at that time. But usually it's reworking of an already like successful story.
Okay.
Once you're into the book, every 3-4 months, it's changed since last I know about it. There's a counting. Well, every month there's a card that comes with the book, and you can put up to 3 people who you think are good, 3 stories. So if you,
as a reader, you vote.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
So yeah, you vote which is the best, which is second best, which is third best. Then that goes. You send those in, and then you get ranked from 1st to 20th. If you're in the top 10, you pretty much don't have to worry at all about being canceled. If you're on the lower 10, there's a chance that you might be canceled. But it depends on how many new books that they're looking to bring in, new stories and all like that.
So is there like a major and minor leagues type of thing?
Well, there's a lot of different mags. There's not even just monthly. Outside of Jump magazine, which is a bigger corporation, there are also weekly magazines as well. And that's where it gets stressful, because then you have to get like 19 to 20 pages done every single week.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're divided up by genre. who their the demographic is, like how, like he was saying, how often they come out, stuff like that.
So they would have like they would have like a cyberpunk type magazine, like a slice of life type magazine. Because I know they do like they have the cooking show ones, and then they have
kind of most of them are basically the demographic more than genre. There are some genre ones, but that's like
so
the word
it would go by.
shonen.
So you'd get one for like 13-year-old girls or that general age period.
Well, yeah, when I say Shonen Jump, that means little boys magazine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, and if I say
And then
Seinen Jump, that means,
Okay.
okay, once you're at that magazine, if you're in the cancel thing, it depends on the genre that you're a part of. Like, if you're a comedy book, because good comedies are harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're in the mid range, you're less likely to be dropped than like a hardcore thing that's really popular. Because
Just because it's harder to fill your spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, depending on what's the scene like in the book and what books they want to bring, then the 3 books are given like by this time we're going to cancel your book. So you have about 3-4 months to finish up the story, and whether you do or not, you're out. And then the new books are brought in, and the cycle repeats. For those who are in the good side of things, publisher they go, okay, do we want to collect this all into tankobons? Tankobons are about 6 issues worth of the comic. It's equivalent to our trade paperback, but they're more size-wise. They're like a book.
Okay, so this is what I consider. I'm holding Full Metal Alchemist right now, volumes 1, 2, and 3. And
yeah, if you have the little book,
it looks like a paperback book. And what do they call that?
Tankobon.
That's a takobon.
Yeah.
So let's
TANKOU.
the local taco bar. All right. So it's called a takobon.
Tanko.
Tango. All right. There's where my confusion was.
Okay.
Tankobon. Okay. So go ahead.
Usually get about like 30 to 50,000 issues printed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But then they reissue, do reprints and all like that if you get more popular. If the thing is popular enough to be reprint, as you go up in volumes, if you've shown that X number will sell, then they just do that in the first run.
Yeah, this one I'm holding. It's 11th printing.
Yeah,
and Full Metal is pretty popular.
And then if you get really popular, then you get an anime.
Oh, okay. So the manga is the minor leagues to an extent compared.
Yeah, sort of.
And then the major leagues would be jump into the anime.
Yeah, and like the Shonen Jump that we get is sort of like, oh, this is all the stuff that's actually popular, so they just switch it. They bring that stuff over to us. We don't get the direct stuff. Like,
yeah, and I think the American one is printed by Wizards of the Coast.
Okay, so Wizards of the Coast would go to. Or do they have an agreement with the Japanese publisher?
It's more like they distribute it here because Shonen Jump doesn't have an American base.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So basically, it's not rebranded, but they put their name on it too to help distribute it. It's like a distributor.
Yeah, and because they only have licenses to certain IPs, then they can't put out like the same. It's not the exact same magazine.
Yeah.
But once you realize this, now you see how much merit goes into producing all the books in Japan, and then you see that what you're getting in America is the top of the top.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when people go, well, these are better, why are these better? It's like, well, you just had to fight tooth and nail to get to this far, and now you're looking at the fighting between the top people. It's like going Rock versus Hulk Hogan versus some no-name people that you've never heard of.
So is it like a big deal then to be chosen as your stories going to the States?
I have no idea about that.
Okay.
Yeah, because even with the prejudice they have towards the states, there's also kind of like this weird iconization of America. Like they have a really love-hate relationship with the United States over there.
Oh, Dean Domino also mentions that you can get a light novel, and that's sort of like an amateur to the mangas, sort of kind of, where what a light novel or a web novel is pretty much you put out a chapter on the web, and you put it out like every day or every week or at some schedule, and you just keep on building it up, and then that gets volumized, edited, volumized, and sometimes that becomes a manga in itself, like Sword Art Online, Excel World,
The Melancholy of Mia was a light novel.
Log Horizon.
I know, Dragon, you think you kind of think of them as overrated, but I know we have some novelizations for like, what's that one I forgot the name of earlier?
Howl's
Moving Castle. I know there's a novelization of it.
It started as a book and they turned it into a movie.
Okay, so that was a novel that became a movie. I don't know. Was there a manga in between for that? I don't think so. I could be completely wrong.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, so in that case, and I don't know if Miyazaki used the same system or if he was just like, I'm just going to make the stuff that I like.
Yeah, I don't know. But this,
if you want to hear something really weird, right? When it comes to mangas to anime and stuff, sometimes if a manga is really popular, it becomes an anime. But sometimes if the anime is really popular, they will re-release volumes of the manga clipped out with frames from the anime, like which was done in Inuyasha's case. So there's the original black and white manga, but then there's also a version of some of the earlier volumes where it has the scenes from the anime clipped into it.
Oh, that's interesting. And well, I guess that would be like if a book was turned if a book is turned into a movie, you get Jurassic Park or something. Jurassic Park was out, 10 years before the movie came out. And then they re-released the book, but they put like the movie poster on it, on the cover. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a similar kind of thing, because it's just kind of that's how they would try to resell it.
And if you want to see what a web novel is like, you can go check out my web novel that called J&K, Refuse Refuge.
All right, you're gonna have to send me the link to that, and I'll put it.
It's perverted, but whatever.
Okay, well, I don't want any perverts. All right, I'm blocking you.
But there's Royal Road where I post mine at, and then there's the main one that you can do from America is like webnovel.com, which is run by Kidian or something like that. They're ran by Tencent, which if you get popular on there, they'll license the IP from you and put out like an anime and shit like that.
Okay. Now
you don't want to get involved with them, by the way.
Okay, I won't.
They're Chinese and horrible, and they're responsible for a lot of the bad stuff.
Now you're the racist.
Yeah.
Doesn't is it Tencent? There's one of them owns Line Webtoon. It's either
they're responsible for like Assassin's Creed. They bought all that stuff out. The company that makes that. They're a huge conglomerate.
Okay.
One of the biggest companies in the world.
Let's see. Geekery Barn says, Dave, at some point we got to have a discussion of deconstruction series, both American and Japanese work. What is deconstruction series? You're going to have to break that down for me.
Deconstruction is something that looks at the tropes, and they make a series in that line, but they deconstruct the tropes, and they kind of play them out to their fullest. A lot of times they're very cynical because of that, but like a good example of one that's not cynical is One Punch Man is kind of more than a parody. It's kind of a deconstruction of the superhero tropes in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am familiar with that. I get that reference.
Yeah.
I understand that reference. Now, okay, that makes sense when you say One Punch Man, because I know a little bit about that. All right, so if I go to Japan and I've read the manga, and then I go to watch the anime, do I have to watch the anime in reverse?
Yes. Funny enough, there is one particular series called The Melancholy of Suzumiya. Haruhi Suzumiya. You should be watching that out of order.
Really? Well, there's
there's
a difference between watching it out, because like technically you could watch Pulp Fiction out of order and put it into, because it's technically out of order, but you could theoretically put it into order if you wanted to.
Yeah, the way Haruhi works is there is an airing order of the episodes, the way it was produced. But then if you follow it in the order that the light novels wrote, you actually have to pick and choose certain things. And there's like some from season 2 that you would watch before season 1, just the way it goes. There's also a time where they get you to watch the same episode 8 times, but it's a different episode. That's not ruining anything for you. You'd understand once you watch it.
Was it like a same episode from different points of view?
No, it's like almost literally the same episode in almost every way.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a there's a chronological order, and then there's the airing order. The airing order is the correct way to watch it, but if you watch it in chronological order, you're not quite ruining anything, but you don't get the same experience.
Airing order first, and then if you rewatch it, you can actually get more out of it from watching it in chronological order.
Okay. It's like that movie Memento. Have you ever seen that?
I'm trying to remember which one that was.
I know of it, but I haven't seen it that I recall.
I have to. I own it somewhere. I thought I did. I have to watch it again because it's really hard to watch. Because the whole point of the movie is the guy has a memory thing where, like, he can only remember things for 5 minutes at a time, and the whole movie takes place backwards, like literally backwards. Like the beginning of the movie is technically how the narration ended, and then it goes back 5 minutes, and then he discovers the clue that leads him to that point, but then it goes back 5 minutes and he discovers the clue that led to the clue. And it's a really good movie, but it's really hard to watch. And there's actually a way to unlock on the DVD, a way you can unlock it so it actually plays in the right order and like chronologically. But as a movie, it's actually really good. It's like a crime movie. He's trying to solve a crime, and he keeps writing the clues on himself.
Tattoo.
Well, he tattoos some of the clues. Some of the stuff he writes notes, and some of the stuff he just kind of writes on his hand. So as you see in the beginning of the movie, you see all the clues written out on him. He's got like photographs and stuff. It's all written out on him. And by the end of the movie, he's just writing the first clue on his hand, or he's just tattooing. It's like don't trust so and so. So
there's a time travel movie that's similar where what happened? Well, there's two like that, but the one is they're at a party and this guy is trying to convince the person at the party that they need to do something because there's global warming happening. If they don't do that, then the world will be messed up, and they keep on coming back, but it's at a different time point, and they keep on showing it like. And the way that the character is shown, it's completely out of order. But then at the end of the movie, they show it all in order. It's like, oh, that makes perfect sense now.
it all just comes together, yeah.
Well, keeping it back onto manga and anime, there's actually, after explaining Memento, because I haven't seen it,
Okay.
there's a part in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, part 6, I believe. Yeah, Stone Ocean, where they basically use the powers that are involved to do that exact same thing on the main character.
Oh, really?
Except instead of 5 minutes, she can only remember up to 3 pieces of information at the same time. And after like 3 full drawn out thoughts are completed, the next bit of information will erase the first one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There's also the show Something Gate. I think it's Einsgate.
Steins Gate.
Yeah, Steins Gate. That's what it is.
Which
That's
started as a visual novel before it was a show.
yeah, and it's somewhat paying homage to John Teeter. You know anything about him?
I have no idea who John Peter is.
John Teeter is a name that appeared on message boards that said he was a time traveler from like 30, 40 years in the future. Kept on leaving messages, and
I think I vaguely remember hearing something about this or something like this.
And if you don't know, they explain all of this in the show as well.
Okay, so the show is about this character that appeared in these message boards.
Kind of.
Sort of.
It's an important part of the show, but the show's not about that.
Oh, okay. Because I remember vaguely hearing about the message board guy. I don't know if it's the same one, but it has to be. It sounds too familiar.
All you need to know for Steins Gate is El Psi Kangaroo.
All right. So I have to look up El Psi Kangaroo?
No, you don't have to. It's just the catchphrase of the main character.
Oh, okay.
He also really likes Dr. Pepper.
The other thing I did when I started watching Trigun, I did a little bit of my research on that one. I thought it was interesting, and I can kind of see it after watching it, how it wasn't all that popular in Japan. It was more popular when it came here in the States. And it's because I guess there's a lot more like American names or European names more so than there are Japanese names. And a lot of it's a lot of like kind of Western type stuff and themes, which isn't really as much their culture as it would be ours. I just thought that was an interesting fact when I was reading up on it. But there's something else. I know you went over all the shonen stuff, which is cool. There's something else about the reason they sell millions of copies compared to us is that, excuse me, in America and in Europe, I mean, I know they have, and some like French, I think France has kind of a big comic industry.
Yeah.
But I think they don't do monthly the same way we do. I think it's a lot of kind of biannually or quarterly or that kind of stuff.
So bad.
But I know in Japan compared to Europe, the arts, I mean, there was painters and stuff like that, but
Like everybody else.
when it comes to reading stuff, it's more literary. It's they would put on plays, but it was a lot more just reading books, as opposed to Japan has a more graphic storytelling history. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, there's a little bit of that.
And what it leads to is here in the States, and I don't know so much about Europe, but here in the States, a comic book is considered for kids. And in Japan, not so much. People of all ages will read manga.
Well, I'm not sure.
It depends on the manga too, because some of them are very much considered for kids. But there.
Oh yeah, well, I understand that, but I mean, it's the same thing here. But I think as a culture generally, they're less inclined to think of, and even an adult even here, culturally, and even a more adult comic would be considered, kiddie and nerdy and that kind of stuff. Where over there, it's less so. Because
don't remember what happened, but I know it happened around like 40s or between the 40s and 60s. Something happened where in America, all the animated stuff and comic stuff started being labeled as for kids, but the anime started off in the same place as American animation did. That's why you have Warner Brothers cartoons, all those Bugs Bunny episodes and all like that. They're more risque back then, is because they weren't considered for kids.
Yeah, like the adults would get some of those jokes and the kids wouldn't, so they were kind of considered for both.
Well, they were just considered like whatever. They weren't for kids.
Yeah,
just like comics weren't for kids. Back in the day, they were sent to the military
to enjoy this.
Say again. I'm sorry. You got
I said they were for general audiences. Anyone
Yeah.
should be able to enjoy this.
Yeah. So
But
whatever.
general audiences until ratings started being forced down people's throats.
Yeah. And when I don't know, when did they start the Comics Code stuff? Was that the 60s?
That was, yeah, that was sometime in the 60s, late
Yeah.
50s.
So just before then, there was a whole big movement that was that I know was very anti. Oh, comic books are too violent and they're too sexy and they're too all this for everybody. And since so at some point they had to think before the Comics Code, there had to be this attitude that they were for kids and they were trying to warp kids' minds and stuff like that.
Well, there is that sentiment that happened, but it wasn't the general view. It's like on what's a common SJW view? Like it be considered like what you think the SJWs would say about comics is the general view that everyone has right now. When we know that's not true.
Okay.
That's the same sort of situation you have back then. It's like there was that idea that it was just for kids, but that was mainly the SJW view of the time.
Well, there was also the idea, and I think it was Chuck Dixon who wrote an article about this. There was also the kind of idea, and to an extent it was true, that it was, a men's only kind of thing, because they used to have, and were very popular, romance comics that were very, women audience centered. But then you had the guys that took over Marvel and DC, and their thing was superhero comics. They didn't really want to have anything to do with the romance comics, even though they were. And this isn't kind of. I mean, these are the big names that were running the companies at the time. So it's kind of an SJW thing where even though they were making a lot of money with these romance comics, they didn't want anything to do with them.
Here's a secret. Superhero comics are romance comics.
Well,
yeah,
but
they are.
You know what I'm saying. There were comics that weren't superhero. There are other comics that aren't superhero comics that were romance comics at the time. They were like romance novels, only in comic book form. And they were very popular. But again, the guys that were running, the guys like Jim Lee and whoever was running DC, they wanted to do Superman and Spider-Man and that kind of stuff. And so eventually they kind of they almost kind of pushed the thing where comic books are for men or comic books are for boys. Now nowadays, obviously, I mean girls like superhero comics just like anybody else. And they probably did back then as well. But I think probably if they hadn't pushed those comics out, you'd have like almost a separate industry.
Well, there's actually a reason why even when women get involved in comics, you do still have a more lean towards men getting it than women. And it's because men are very visual creatures, while the novel world is dominated by women for the most part, because women are more senses and like ideas and stuff when it comes to their fiction. They get more out of reading something, while men get more out of looking at something. And this isn't straight across the board, but when you're looking at averages between personality differences between men and women, that's typically how it works.
Yep, that's how it goes.
Geekery Barnes says the Comics Code was in the 50s. So that's positive. But I remember when Comics Code was it was voluntary to avoid problems, I guess, because they were getting hammered. I remember reading all this stuff a few years ago, but before the Comics Code, there was it was almost like in the 80s with the parents group against the Simpsons and, against Married with Children, that kind of stuff, that there was something similar to that against the comic book industry, because there was a lot of horror. There was a lot more horror comics at the time, like the horror anthology type comics.
Yeah, and all the ratings are voluntary.
Yeah, well, that's what they did. Like there was no government agency that put the stamp on. But there's no like guy in the government that was reading the comic going, "Oh, this is not going to make code."
No, that's sort of sarcastic.
Yeah.
they're voluntary because they're not actually voluntary. They
Yeah.
only did it because if they didn't do it, someone else, the
Somebody
government
was
would do it.
uninformed.
Yeah.
You're pressured into self-censoring, basically. It's like the ESRB for video games. They were pressured into self and basically coming up with ratings for their own, or else the government would start doing it.
Yeah. It's almost like, fine, we'll rate the games. Just leave us alone.
And here's the trippy part. I don't disagree with ratings. I think they're actually a good thing if they're kept to the point where, like the game industry has it, where that tells you what's actually in there.
Yeah, it's helpful for purchasing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
for
'cause you know-
parents and even people who don't care.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want the kid. You don't want like we get different games for my 14-year-old than we get for my 6-year-old. So I just want to me that's fine, but there's something like the comics code was one thing. It wasn't like there was okay, this is for this age group, this is for this age group. Yeah, exactly. It was a one and done thing. And I guess a lot of the indie comics didn't do it, or at least most of them didn't do it. But that was just the big two, and that's probably how they kind of held on to control of the industry. That probably helped them out a lot.
If I remember, the thing that basically killed the comics code was the British invasion of like writers and authors that hopped into DC and Marvel.
Like in the 90s? Because
the British invasion, they pretty much ignored a lot of the more stricter stuff in the comics code.
Yeah, because they didn't have to worry about it overseas.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the thing that killed it is that not the Spider-Man issue, the Green Arrow issue, where they did the drug thing. Like, we can't tell this story and still follow the Comics Code Authority. It's too good. It's too important.
Yeah.
So we're just going to ignore it. And after they did that, they're like, oh yeah, we have this ability to tell good stories. So let's tell the good stories and ignore this other thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that only has power as long as you give it power.
Yeah, exactly. If everybody starts ignoring it and there's nothing really holding the leash, so to speak.
But another thing is that the rating system that game companies use, if they were better about it, they could use that stuff for modifying the game so that you could go, oh, there's blood in here. Well, I don't like blood, so I can just go in my settings, click a button that says I don't like blood, and you could have a game with no blood in it.
Well, yeah, I got something similar in the GoldenEye did that when they re-released it. You could get a paintball option where it wasn't blood.
Yeah, they're just now figuring that out with the Switch. I came up with that idea like when the Dreamcast was a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why don't you just do that?
Well, there were games that had options on different systems, like Sega's version of Mortal Kombat versus Nintendo's. There was realistic blood in one and not the other.
Yeah, you could. Well, that's just one of them. You could also go. Well, I don't like swear words, and this swear word might be like needed for a specific dialogue. Well, in like a Christianized version of like a movie that did that, they would either bleep out the word with fudge, or they just remove the scene, and that isn't good from a creator point of view. That's just like, well, you're ruining that thing. So why don't I go in as a creator and go, okay, well, this person doesn't like the word fuck, so why don't we just take that word out of the script and see what we can alter this into? And then since we have control of the entire experience, we can just completely rewrite that scene and serve the entire narrative and the game and all like that, and give them an equal but different experience.
Oh, actually, I know there are some movies that have already done that too, where like the director would shoot a scene with and without expletives. So the film version that goes to the movie theater has the cursing in it, but then the TV version is ready for whenever they're ready to put it on there.
They did that most obviously. Well, I'm probably some others. Like I know Die Hard 2. The famous line is instead of Yippee-ki-yay, it's Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon. Yeah, and it's kind of a famous like silly line that people quote. They'll say Mr. Falcon just because it's funny. But they did it. I remember specifically they did it with Ghostbusters. There's that scene where they're in the mayor's office and he's talking and he calls him he calls him dickless or something, and he goes, "Is that true?" And the famous line from the theater is, "Yes, it's true. The man has no dick." But in the TV version, he says, "Yes, it's true. This man is some kind of rodent. I don't know which." And that was they filmed the scene with that in it because they obviously didn't dub it because he was saying his lip smash and everything. So they actually filmed the scene for TV.
See, but now with the gaming stuff, we have even with movies now, we have even more power to control that. So if it gets to it being specifically what's in the game or a movie or whatever, the ratings, then you could make modifications based on what people like and what people don't like. So you can have the non-cursing game with the ultra violence, or you can have no violence and the cursing. So you can just modify that as you like.
You would think that it would almost be easier. I mean, I guess people have different preferences, so it gives you more choice. I would almost think it would be easier for them, and I don't know how games are put together. If they would just be like, "All right, this is the PG-13 version. Just click on this. Click on this version."
There are some games that you turn the boob physics on and off.
I'm gonna tell you two things.
Ooh. No.
Well, I mean, they could do that along with that. You can go, okay, I want the PG-13 version, and they could just load that up, all the settings for that. So you can have both like a specific version of it and a general category of it. But it requires these companies and these rating boards to actually spell out what's in the freaking game or the movie or whatever.
Well, you would think they could do it just like no cursing, different blood, some kind of different blood spatter pattern or something, less of or off scene almost kind of stuff, or I don't know. Like I said, I'm not
blood. That's raspberry jam. That's not blood. That's raspberry jam.
Well, there's a way, like in the comic books, they got around it. The way they got around it was they made it black instead of red. As long as it wasn't red, if they made it blue or whatever, then they could get away with different blood stuff that they couldn't get away with if they just made it red.
Yeah, RT Bear was talking about having to do that with his black and white comic. He made them robots now, so he changed the color of the blood from like I think it's blue now or green, so that it's obvious that the characters that White kills early on is now they're now robots rather than humans.
Okay. All right. So let's see what else we got. I mean, none of you guys have seen the movie. But I recommend it. I'm going to tell everybody right now. Well, not that we have a million people in the audience, but if you haven't seen it, go see Alita because it was really good. I thought it was really close to the manga, at least as far as I've gotten in the manga. Plus, the art's really good.
That was me. I played Fortnite.
Like everybody talks about the big eyes, but the big eyes didn't. In context with the rest of the movie, it doesn't bother you. It didn't bother me at all. I barely noticed it. Because everybody else is so radically different, because with all the cyborgs and everything. So if
Unfortunately, I have to wait for like 4 or 5 months before I can see it. So.
On Redbox, there are plenty. No, I was gonna.
Yeah, let's stay with Redbox. That we'll say that.
Yeah. Yes, we will, because on the Indie Dave Comics channel, we do not at all endorse pirating of any kind.
No, I didn't say pirating. I said let's go with Redbox. Yes.
Oh, they're two separately. They're unrelated statements. Two completely unrelated statements.
I don't even know what a Redbox looks like. But
You guys don't have Redbox?
I have never seen it.
Really?
Uh-huh.
It's wow. You live out in the sticks.
No,
I thought it was everywhere. You live where?
I live near Detroit.
Oh, well, that explains it too.
Well, maybe.
I guess maybe it's more regional than I thought it was. They just don't have them out there.
I've never seen them, but I'm not I don't get out of the house much. So
I was gonna say I think Netflix was trying to do something similar because I thought Redbox was kind of encroaching on them. because Redbox gets the newer stuff before Netflix does.
Mhm.
And I think Netflix was trying to get their own kind of Redbox thing going on.
I think they were doing that beforehand. They
Well, they had the mail away, but with a Redbox, all you do is you walk in, you just swipe your credit card, and the movies are already in the machine, and it just dispenses them. And
yeah,
then
I've never seen that.
and then you can take the DVD, and anywhere where there's a Redbox, like you can take it at there's 3 Redboxes around me, and they're just in like grocery stores in the front of the grocery store. And
I've got one at the Walmart, at the Walgreens, and at the CVS.
Yeah. So what you could do is you can take one, like I'll be like on my way back from work, and I'll pick up something to watch at home, and then when I finish it at home, I can go right down the street. There's another Redbox, and I can put the same movie in just a different Redbox.
We still have video rental places here.
Good Lord. What do you live in 1986?
If it was, I'd be 1 year old.
Captain Marvel movie, where they want you to know that there's a Blockbuster.
There's only one Blockbuster left, isn't there? It's in Alaska. I actually used to work at a Blockbuster when I was younger. It was one of my early jobs. It was fun. I got to rent as many VHS tapes as I wanted.
As many as you wished.
As many VHS tapes as I could carry home.
And you weren't into anime yet?
Not at the time, no.
You'd think that you'd have seen some anime from doing that.
Well, I'd seen, I think that's how I watched Appleseed, and probably how I think I watched Akira when I was in college too. So maybe those two. But I was into whatever was new on the shelf. And I remember at the Blockbuster, the new releases, where some of them were stuff that had been sitting on the shelf for months. They were brand new movies months ago. And it was forever before we would replace the new releases. Yeah, Blockbuster was that's where I learned to hate my manager used to play this video, and it was the making of the Chattahoochee song video. And I can't remember the name of the singer, but for a week straight of her playing that during closing, I hated that song and I hated that singer so bad because it would just constantly be playing in the background.
Yes. That's what happened to me with Celine Dion and the Titanic soundtrack.
Oh my God. I don't know that I've ever seen Titanic all the way through.
It's an okay movie.
I've seen bits and pieces. Not really my thing. What I know about Titanic was it used to be 2 VHS tapes. And it was you'd watch the first 2 hours on one, and then you'd watch the last half an hour on the second tape.
What kind of janky VHS tapes did you have?
That was how they sold it. They sold it as a 2 tape.
That was the standard for that movie. It was 2 tapes.
Yeah, because the movie was just long enough where it was more than 1 tape.
Okay.
But they never planned on being that long because the average runtime for a movie is an hour and a half or something. It's 88 minutes long is the average runtime.
I'm pretty sure I have the VHS tape, and it's not 2 tapes long.
Was it the re-released version when VHS tapes got bigger?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure it's the version that came out when it directly came out.
You got gypped when you bought it. I guarantee it ends and there's half an hour left of the movie. Or maybe they skipped the part where Jack dies at the end. They're like, oh crap, we ran out of time, so we'll just say he lives.
I don't think so, but who knows? I didn't.
And they
buy
can
it,
skip that
so.
whole end scene where the old lady dies. See, that's the version you've been watching.
Who knows? I was only 10 years old when it was there, so.
No, it was huge. I remember that movie was huge when I came out.
Yeah, there's several films that were on 2 tapes. I think Waterworld was the same way.
Yeah, Waterworld. I saw that in theaters.
It's almost 4 hours long.
Yeah. You know what? We're talking about we're sort of talking about James Cameron. I found out one of the reasons why the movie Alita is Alita Battle Angel and not Battle Angel Alita. It's because James Cameron is, they called it, one of the jokes is that he's a TNA director. All his movies begin with either T or A. You had Titanic, Terminator, Avatar. I can't remember. There was a couple other ones they were joking around. They mentioned, and when Robert Rodriguez was directing it, he was like, "We need to call it Alita Battle Angel. That way, it continues the pattern." So it begins with an A.
Wow, that's completely hubristic.
Yeah, I don't disbelieve that at all.
I think it's kind of funny that they did that just for that. All right, what time? Oh, it's 11 o'clock. I get stuff.
Yeah.
I got to do. All right, thank you guys. Thank you guys for showing up. Anybody that's left in the chat, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and don't hit the dislike button, and hit the bell for notifications.
If you have hit the subscribe button, hit it again.
Absolutely. No. Don't hit it again.
It's okay. They give you a warning when you want to unsubscribe from somebody, so they can just cancel.
Don't unsubscribe. I've only got 140 something of you. Anyway, hey, thanks guys for showing up, and maybe we'll try to do one of these every once in a while as I get more into it.
And maybe we'll keep on topic.
Maybe,
yeah.
Maybe I should come up with topics.
Or we might end up on feudal Japan and how we got to where we are in the first place.
And we could talk about how racist the Japanese were in feudal Japan. That's
maybe
that's not a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Just wait till the King's Avatar comes out.
Maybe we'll talk about Korean anime next. And we'll talk about how no, we won't talk about that.
Chinese anime sucks.
We'll do a comparison. You guys come up with topics, and I'll come up with topics, and we'll figure something out. So again, thanks for showing up, guys. Had a good time, and we'll try to do another one of these later on. I'll probably still every once in a while, every other weekend, I do this with my kids. So if I can keep them from bickering, I know those always just devolve into bickering and fighting.
It's funny. It's funny and cute to the outside observer.
Oh well, it's annoying as heck from the inside.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, guys. We'll talk to you later. We'll see you on the Twitters. And
night,
hey,
people.
you know what? Don't forget subscribe. Don't forget check out Weeb Wars. Yeah. Don't forget the Veil War. Don't forget to check out Dragons: The Veil War and back that. Let's get that one to gold.
Should I go make a cover called The Weeb War?
But you know what? It's because I got something the other day. We were joking because they keep wanting to call this new thing Anime Gate. And then somebody was like, "No, call it Weeb Wars." But no, check out the Veil War Dragons, and check out what was the name of yours again?
It's X Dynamis Chaos.
X Dynamis Chaos for the metal. All right, and make sure you follow these two guys on Twitter. All right, and follow me too. And you all have a good night.
Good night.